Well, hello there. This is Preacher Man Piper, Doc Hatfield, coming to you again, telling you another story. Many years ago, I had a phone call come about 4 o'clock in the morning. This lady said, she said, my grandson just died. He was a young man, early in his 30s. He'd been having lots of problems. He run with a biker gang all the time. And she said, my son wanted you to preach his funeral. And I said, well, what about the pastor? She said, well, uh, I want him to have a part in it, but said, he wants you to preach his funeral. I said, well, I can do that. I said, if that's what you want, I'd be glad to do that for you. And so the the time came for the funeral, and the the pastor of the church, he said, what are we going to do? I said, what do you mean, what are we going to do? Well, this guy, he was a run with a motorcycle uh, biker gang. Said, what can you say for that? I said, well, I can say whatever the Lord gives me, I guess. And he said, you think any of them will be there? I said, I don't know. He said, well, I just want to do the obituary, if that's all right with you. And I said, that's fine with me. I said, but they'd like for your wife to sing. Oh, no, I don't know that I want her there. I said, would you stop being silly? I said, just just have her come and sing. Well, she did. She came and she sang, and he did the obituary. Then he went back over and sat down uh, to the side in the back of me, and then I got up to do the funeral, and whenever I did, I looked out and I noticed I'm filling up a pipe. I noticed that uh, half of the people in there was from that biker gang. I mean, they're sitting there in all of their get up, what they wore all the time, on their bikes and stuff, and had their jackets on, and had their hats on and everything, and somebody tried to tell them that they need to take their hats off, and they wouldn't pay no attention to nobody. So anyway, when I got up to do the funeral, I said, what I want to address you with today is I want to talk to you about what this boy would say to you now if he could be here at this very moment. And so I went on and started preaching the funeral. About halfway through, This is some of LaDon's Firestorm tobacco. So about halfway through, I noticed that there was a screeching behind me, and I looked back, and the preacher was gone. I mean, he was gone. He got up and left, and so I finished the revival and went down and stood down by the casket. All of them people, all of them bikers, every one of them came by and shook my hand and said, "Thank you, preacher. Thank you, preacher. Thank you, preacher. That meant a lot to us, preacher. Thank you." And they just went right on by. Everybody else went right on by. They took the casket out and was going to get ready to go to the graveyard, and pastor was nowhere to be seen because he was supposed to do the service out at the graveyard. Well, we get out there to the graveyard, and he's nowhere around. I mean, he's not anywhere to be seen. And so I said, to the family, I said, "Pastor's not here. You want me to just take this?" And she said, "Yes, I would appreciate it." And so we finished up with the service and everything, and later on that day, I went over by the church, and the the pastor was in his office, and I went in there and I said, "Where in the world? Where'd you go?" He said, "What do you mean, where'd I go? I got out of there." He said, "Man, you're crazy." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I was afraid they was going to come up there and attack you and maybe kill you." I said, "For what?" "Well, what you was preaching." I said, "Well, I just told him what I thought he would say." "Well, I know, but they were biker gangs." I said, "Listen, every one of them people, every one of them, there wasn't one that didn't say something. Every one of them came by and thanked me and told me how much they liked it. And some of them said they appreciated it. And some of them said that touched me." I said, "So what? Why'd you leave?" He said, I didn't want to get killed." He said, "I got out of there, buddy." He said, "I was gone like a shot." I said, "You were supposed to do the service at the graveyard." "I don't care." He said, "I wasn't going to be near none of them people." He said, they just about scared me right out of my wits." I said, "Well, you missed a real opportunity to see another side of them fellows." And I said, "I want you to know that because of that funeral, because I was honest with them, because I told them the truth, I made friends with every one of them. Every one of them." I said, "Now you don't have a chance to share anything with of the gospel or anything else because you run out. And do you think they didn't notice it?" I said, "It was your chair screeched so much I turned around and looked and you was gone like a shot." So what he doesn't know, what he never did know, was that over several years, many of those bikers came to me. They needed to talk to somebody. I was the one they trusted. They didn't trust the pastor of that church. They didn't trust him at all. But they came to me. They was able to talk with me. I was able to counsel them. I was able to help them. Many of them come to know the Lord as their Savior. And there wasn't anything that could try to bother me that they found out about that they wouldn't step in to help me. So you never know what's going to happen if you do things the wrong way. And he shouldn't have done that. But because he did, he lost all opportunity in the world to befriend them as the years went by. So that's my story. But I'll just tell you another one real quick on the same pastor. One day I got a call from him. And so I went down to the church to see him. He said, we got to go out to the back of the parking lot. I don't want nobody to hear us. I said, okay. So we went down in the back of the parking lot. I said, what do you need? What's the problem? And he said, I'm in trouble. And I said, you are? He said, yeah. I said, what are you in trouble about? Well, he said, I had this lady come to me and needing counseling, and said, I started seeing her. I said, now let's see, you're seeing her. Does that mean that you're seeing her as a counselor, or does that mean that you're seeing her as something else? He said, well, he said, I didn't mean to get involved with her, but he said, I just did. He said, but I've got two problems. Her daddy is a pastor of a large Southern Baptist church in South Carolina. I said, oh. And said, he called me and told me he was going to call my deacons and tell them what I'm doing. And he said, that'll ruin my marriage. He said, that'll ruin everything. I said, well, what do you want me to do about it? I need your help. I said, well, I can help you. But I said, let me explain something to you. This is a one-time deal. I won't help you again. And you're going to have to get up before the church. And you're going to have to repent of this thing. I said, but I can help you. He said, yeah, but I don't know what to do about her daddy. I said, I'll take care of her daddy. You don't worry about that. Well, of course, I called him and I talked to him and I explained a lot of things to him that he wasn't thinking about. I know what he was thinking about. He's thinking, here's this preacher taking advantage of my daughter in his church, and I'm going to get him taken care of. And as a father, he was right in doing so. So anyway, after I talked to him for a good while, he decided to back off and not do that. Now, on the other problem that he had with that, this woman's husband, they were separated, they weren't divorced. This woman's husband was a police officer. And he was afraid that if he found out about this, that guy might come and whoop him or something. I don't know. So anyway, I went to her and I just told her plain out. I said, you've got to go. You got to go somewhere else and go to church. You cannot be here. You just can't do it. I said, now, if we don't want to ruin this church and we don't want this church to split, we don't want this church to surmount problems it cannot handle, you need to leave. So she said, okay, I'll leave. And I said, you need to not call this preacher again. Don't call him at all. Stay away. I said, now, if you need help with your husband, if you need help with getting your marriage back together, I'm your man. I can help you. But you're going to have to leave and leave him alone. Well, after everything got straightened out, everything went fine there for about 6 months or so. And that preacher called me again and he said, can I talk to you? I said, yeah, I'll be right over. So I went over to see him and he said, you going to get mad? I said, no, I don't get mad. Just tell me what it is and we'll take care of it. All right, he said. I'm still seeing that girl. I said, you mean to tell me you didn't stop seeing her after I went and talked to her daddy, after I went and got that fixed up for you, after I fixed it up with the church and everything? I said, you still did it? You're still doing it? You're still having an affair with this girl? Well, I don't call it an affair. I said, well, I call it an affair. And you being the pastor of the church, you being the leader of the church, you being the one standing up there in the pulpit preaching the gospel, and you're turning around and living the very thing you preach against. I said, what do you want me to do? Well, I need you to help me to fix it again. I said, no, I can't help you fix it again. No. I said, you need to resign and leave. That's what you need to do. You just need to resign and leave. I said, now, are you wanting to leave your wife and your kids and go be with this woman? I said, just say it straight out. Just say it straight out. Well, I've been thinking about that. I said, then you need to do it. You need to go tell your wife and kids that you're leaving, and you need to leave now. I said, you need to get up Sunday morning. You need to tell them you're resigning and walk off of the platform and leave. I said, then you need to get in your vehicle and drive away. I said, don't worry about your wife. Don't worry about your kids. We'll take care of them. We'll get them where they need to be. We'll get them situated. Don't worry about them. But I said, know this. Don't go stepping back in another pulpit. Don't step back in another pulpit as long as you're going to be living this kind of lifestyle and deserting your wife, deserting your kids, deserting your calling, deserting your church. And so he did the right thing as far as his wife and kids was concerned. He went to her and he confessed to her what he was doing and asked her for forgiveness. She was a very loving, godly woman. Could sing. Oh, I mean, she had a beautiful voice. And so he got up on Sunday. He told him, he said, I got to leave. I can't stay here no more. I got to get out of Nashville altogether. And so he got up on Sunday morning and told them that he was resigning and And then he left. He just walked off the platform, and he already had everything packed up. And he walked out of the church, got in the vehicle, and they all left and They went back to Louisiana because that's where his people were. And I don't know whatever happened to him after that. Never heard of him again. So anyway, that's the two stories about that preacher and about that church and about that that biker funeral. Yep. So I don't keep chugging on this pipe, so I have to keep lighting it. If I can get the lighter to work with me here. Well, so far I've got 27 of you signed up for the gall. More of you need to get in on it now because it's still a good while before we will end the entry of it on the 22nd. So I want you to get in on the gall so that you can have a chance to get this pipe and tobacco and the cleaners, and I might be throwing something else in there. You can't never tell. I might find a possum or something like that in outside and throw that in there. You never can tell. But anyway, may the good Lord keep you and watch over you. May he pour his grace out upon you. May he supply your every need and take care of every circumstance. So until I see you again, bye-bye.